Today, we're talking about player development and why this is important to the Chicago Bulls season and their future. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button, just like Modest Buzelis slam dunks in games. And so in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as we're talking about player development. And so I think that regardless of how this season plays out, player development is a step that the Chicago Bulls cannot afford to skip, and they must get this right. And so I've looked at this in two different viewpoints. And so you have players that they have shown some major flashes and signs, and you know that if you can just go ahead and continue to develop them, they are going to be super impactful for the Chicago Bulls and really are going to be a problem in the NBA. And then next, you have players that have shown potential. And so these players have shown some flashes, they've shown some signs here and there, but they really haven't tapped into that. And so I think with the player development there, you're going to find out really who they are as players and if they fit with your team. And then also, too, you have the chance to really find a hidden gem. And so maybe a player that everybody counted out, they just needed some more coaching and just an opportunity. And then you really have something special there. You have, a role player or a star player that you can continue to build with here. And so let's start with the players that have shown some major flashes. And they just need some more coaching to take it to the next level here. And it's going to help the Bulls' bottom line for their long-term future. And so starting with the backcourt in Josh Giddey and Coby White. And so, I think that on the offensive end, both of these players really can add a little bit more to their offensive game, and they can become efficient as well. And so, with Josh Giddey, we saw that he could definitely knock down the three ball. I think that this is something that he's going to continue to do here in this next season. And so you hope that you see even more of an improvement from there. And then next, I think for him, as far as the adding to his offensive game, can he be a player that gets to the mid-range? Can he be a player that uses his size in the post? Because I definitely think that could open it up for him and he can take a step forward. And then for Coby White, I think it's about him just really being a better decision maker once he gets to the teeth of the defense here. And so, can he, now maybe get the assist numbers back up when he's getting the defense drawn to him and not turning it over? Can he be a player that becomes even more efficient, I think, in the mid-range game? And so I think that by doing that, and both of these players really taking the step forward and you just pouring into them from a player development standpoint, you're going to open it up for the entire team, because now you're talking about a team that wants to play fast. We know that. But when the game slows down, right, and you do get better and you get into these games that are more meaningful, right, like you're talking about playoffs and deep runs and stuff like that, you got to be able to score in the half court. And so that's why you want to go ahead and you want to develop that right now as you can continue to build this team. And so I think starting with them, that's what we're talking about with player development and why it's going to be important for the long term. And then next, when you look at Modest Buzelis, Modest Buzelis has the chance to really, he might be a franchise player. We don't know if he can or he cannot. Either way, we're going to find out. And so we know that, he's trending in the right direction. I said it before, and I've done a video. Can he be a star? Can he be just a good rotational piece? Can he be a franchise player? We don't know what that's going to look like. But, by pouring into him, I think you are definitely going to get to his potential sooner rather than later, because Modest Buzelis wants to get there just like Coby White and Josh Giddey. And you just drafted him. And so you really, really want to pour in, to him some more and see what he can do. And so I think for him, much like Josh Giddey and also to Coby White, you're going to see him get a bit more crafty on the offensive end. Like, you want to coach that up and you want to see, can he become a guy that gets more efficient in the mid-range? Can he be a guy that gets more crafty, I think, getting to the basket? Because we saw flashes of that last season. Obviously, I think we see some more, especially if they put the ball in his hands. And then also, too, he's going to have to continue to build really on that three-point shot, just like we saw with Josh Giddey here. And so you definitely want to pour into him, because if you do, I think you have a player that is going to be impactful, with this backcourt, and these guys are going to be a problem for the rest of the NBA. And so next, looking at some players that really they've been established in this league, and you just know that if you pour into them, it's about just getting them to the max right now. And so I'm talking about a guy like Isaac Okoro, and then also too Ayo Dosunmu. I think that both of these players have shown that, yes, they can be two-way players and things like that. But I think now, by pouring into them, getting them more efficient on the offensive end, getting them more comfortable in that role of just being, into the offense and just being impactful there, you're going to help them take a step forward. And we know defensively what these guys can bring to the team. You just got to give them that type of opportunity. But again, you're really, investing into these players, and that's going to help your bottom line as far as your long-term build, because now you're talking about two-way players that just become elite in this league. And so, I think that that's what you're looking at with both of those players. And so now, just looking at the players that have shown some potential here, and I think players that, you not only do you want to develop them, but you also just really need to find out what you have. And so starting with a guy like Julian Phillips. And so Julian Phillips definitely showed some signs. He's already, getting off the bench before Patrick Williams. And so I think that that's kind of where I'm at with Patrick Williams too, as well. Like, I'm not sure that I necessarily will put him into the showing flashes. I think he's still in the potential standpoint, but these guys, they possibly can really become something special for you. And so with Julian Phillips, again, it's going to be, can you get him to become a bit more, I guess, not just efficient, but also too, can he become like a guy that you can go, okay, we can get him the basketball, he can put it on the deck, he can make some good things happen, maybe as a decision maker, or a guy that can just get to the rim, get to the free throw line and things like that. Like, I think he needs to do just a little bit more than be, just a 3-and-D type of player, even though I think that the team definitely needs that. But I think that you get more versatile if you can coach that out of him. And so let's see, if the Bulls can do so. And they also have to figure out, okay, is Julian Phillips a player that we can build with, or do you want to move on from him? And so that comes from just going ahead and investing really into the development of him. And then next, when you look at a guy like, Jalen Smith, and so I know that, he's got a year left on his contract, but I think that there's so much untapped potential with him. And you're trying to figure out, okay, is he a center? Is he a power forward? Can you really count on him for some major minutes and things like that? And so I think that this is definitely something that you need to figure out with Julian Phillips. And again, I think for him, it is more so, I think, just you're trying to figure out what the plan is, because if he's not going to be with you, then you need to figure out if you can move on from him. And so again, that goes into player development and just kind of knowing your personnel and understanding that. And I think that the same thing is true here for Dalen Terry as well. Dalen Terry, he's shown some flashes here or there. Can you coach him up to where he becomes a major contributor for your team? Because if not, then you need to move on from him. And then lastly, when we're talking about players and just potential, and really they haven't even got a chance to show that just yet, but a guy like Noa Essengue, right? This is going to be huge, because if the Bulls are going to continue with the path that they're on, where they're not looking to go out and get into the lottery and things like that, you're going to continue to run into players like Buzelis or Noa Essengue, and you're going to have to make sure that you get them into situations where you can develop them. And so you're hoping that, Noa Essengue really takes on the same mindset as Buzelis, which we've heard that. And so this is why I think that the Bulls really have hit with Noa Essengue. And I think that, look, by developing him, much like you did with Buzelis, now you're really starting to cook here for the Bulls, and it's going to open it up for the long term for you, because if you can hit here with these rookies that you're getting out of the draft, you're going to start to attract some major talent to come to you. And also too, now you're starting to show that you're making just the best with what you have from just your draft assets and things like that. So anyway, you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking here, because again, I think that player development is something that just AK in this front office cannot afford to skip. Like, you have to be able to go out there and develop this talent, because by doing so, then that is where you're going to attract superstars, because now they look at this and go, hey, the Bulls are really cooking here with this young core. Perhaps they have something and they just need a star to come on down. And then also too, team direction, right? Like, you actually have a path of, look, this is how we're going to build the team. This is the way that we want to go. And then you also have a chance to really find maybe a franchise player again. And so the only way you do that is you have to really develop that talent. You have to give them the opportunities to really step into that. And so that's one of the things that the Bulls don't have, is just a franchise player. And so hopefully it's on the roster. You would hope that is the case. And so you have to continue to kind of coach it out of them. And so let's see what happens there. And so I just think that this is a must do for the Chicago Bulls. They are going to have to hit on the development. So anyway, you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. And as we always say, look, go Bulls. And I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.